Hey guys, Dezpulse here. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that's really been hot in the Legion beta, and that's tanks. You might guess from the title of this video, I'm kind of tired of hearing about people complaining and complaining about the tanks. So I just wanted to talk about this a little bit, and in the spirit of the Legion beta, I'm just going to give you something to look at while I talk about this. So I'm running a Black Temple. Let's jump right into this conversation because I got a lot to say. Alright guys, so tanks. They've been a hot conversation lately. Paladin tanks are overpowered, they do so much damage. Warrior tanks have a one-shot rotation along with all their other specs that can one-shot you. What's going on? Blood Death Knights can absolutely live for days. Survivability through the freaking roof. But wait, why is everyone complaining about Paladin tanks? Now, I'm not going to defend Paladin tanks by any means, I have no reason to. But tanks are supposed to be tanks. I am very excited for what I'm seeing because tanks are finally tanks. Tanks should be able to take on 1, 2, or even 3 people at a time because they're tanks. That's what they do. That's what they should be doing. They haven't done that up until this point, until they're in PvE, and I'm not sure what Blizzard's intentions are, obviously, but now you guys know how everybody in a dungeon, every mob in a dungeon, I mean, feels like. Running into tanks, smacking them not losing health, and being like, what the hell is going on here? This is how tanks were meant to be played. I love seeing how they are in PvP right now. You actually need to strategize. Is anybody thinking about this? If a tank is at, let's say, the Lumber Mill in Arathi Basin, for example, you can't just run in there and kill him anymore. You've got to actually coordinate. Go up there with 3 or 4 people to take him out. And you know what? That's the point of tanks. It's such a good change in my opinion. Now, you know, some videos of, let's say, you know, the prop paladins annihilating people in like 3 hits. Okay, there is some adjustment, granted, that should be made, but on a grander scale, looking at what could be with what is right now, I love what I'm seeing. I really do. There's so much potential for fun because you need to coordinate in PvP. You can't just have the best gear and own everybody's face anymore. You have to go and coordinate with people. If you're DPS and healing, you see a tank, you can't just run in on him. You know he's going to run in on you if you're alone, but you got to regroup, strategize. There's an element to the game that's getting me really excited from what I'm seeing with this simple change that tanks are finally living up to their spec name of being a tank. Now, let's look at both sides. I'm going to try to be as fair and as subjective as humanly possible here. First side, Paladin tanks are overpowered. They do way too much burst damage, live way too long, plus they have their bubble, their lay on hands, heals, blah, blah, blah. Warrior tanks are too strong. They got their one-shot rotation in every spec they have. Blood Death Knights can almost keep up a permanent shield, plus their heals. They can survive for days. I don't know anything about Druid tanks. I've been looking for Druid tank videos. I haven't really found anything that would make me feel comfortable talking about them right now. But the other tanks, they can't hit this hard. It's overpowered. Can't everyone see that? Why doesn't Blizzard fix this? Is the argument, right? They're very strong. They have incredibly good survivability. And now they can hit like trains. Right? That's one side. We can all understand that side. Now, I think the biggest downfall to this argument is, yeah, they're tanks. This is how they should have been in PvP. The problem is they get nerfed and mitigated to pieces because right now, every time a tank was good in PvP, I remember on my Paladin in Wrath of the Lich King, I could PvP with all my PvE gear on. And the way Holy Shield worked, I think I had a 86 to 92% chance to block with Holy Shield. I would go into PvP and just laugh because I'd have 5 guys on me that couldn't do any damage. And that was with PvE gear. And yes, that did end up getting changed, but that's the feeling of a tank. The issue I personally see is that whenever something seems a little bit out of balance like that, for example, the way tanks are now in Arena, I can definitely see that being a problem. But you know what? I think it's going to be great in World PvP, great in PvE, and great in Battlegrounds. So if they were to nerf the damage or survivability, probably especially the damage, it'll help Arena, but I think it'll detriment everything else. Instead of smashing a square peg in a circular hole, why don't they just put the square peg in the square hole? What I mean by that is, if it doesn't work in Arena, maybe you gray out tanking specs in Arena. You can't queue if you're in a tanking spec. Now, wait a minute. Everyone's hands in the air now. You can't tell me how to play my class. Fine. What if we take it back a notch? What if we say there's certain talents you can't use in Arena as a tank that give you that insane damage or incredible mitigation, whatever class you're playing or whatever. There has to be some, instead of just nerfing the class, and yeah, okay, good, it's better in Arena now, not everyone's gonna play a tank, but guess what? They're completely useless in Battlegrounds and PvE, not necessarily useless in PvE, but they're useless in Battlegrounds and World PvP now. Imagine World PvP with tanks the way they are today. There'd just be tanks melting each other's faces on the front, DPS in the back, healers further back. It would be great the way it is now. But the problem is, the way they're trying to change it, it's one fix on an individual class or talent for so many different styles of play. PvE is radically different than everything else. World PvP is different than Battlegrounds is different than Arena. If something works in Battlegrounds and World PvP, doesn't work in Arena, don't change the class or the talent. Change the arena. Or not necessarily the arena, but like how I said, maybe certain talents can't be used in Arena. Like right now, you can't use potions or elixirs in Arena. They blocked those because that would give you an unfair... They didn't block them in Battlegrounds or PvE, but they blocked them in Arena. So a similar kind of change, maybe with the talents, is what we need here to help the people in Arena not always see, 2s, 3s, and 5s comps of all just tanks. If you haven't been YouTubing videos of different classes and Legion of people playing the beta, I suggest you do. Every single DPS class can put out colossal amounts of damage. Colossal amounts. So when you multiply that by 3 or 4 or more people on a tank, the tanks are not going to be as bad as everyone's saying. If you look at those tank videos of people melting each other's faces, there's a prot paladin going in, taking on 3 people, there's a certain level of skill that does go behind that. And yes, again, the damage might be a little higher than it should, but let's look beyond that. Let's look at the fact that basically that paladin tank is taking on 3 people, and he's actually being a tank now. Now, when you multiply that by the immense amount of damage other DPS can do, they're not going to live. They might get a kill, they might get 2, but once you add that 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever DPS in there, he might not even get to kill the first. YouTube videos of other classes, other DPS classes, or any class, really. Okay, enhancement champions are absolutely insane in Legion in terms of damage. Frost Death Knights, they explode damage onto you if you don't take them down. Rogues, hunters, like always. Just those 4 classes, you focus a tank, I doubt a tank would even be able to kill one of them. And even if they could and did kill them, there'd be healers around. It's so narrow right now, the point of view that we're looking at with watching somebody in the beta with a prot warrior or a prot paladin just going up to somebody and destroying them, 1-on-1 or 2-on-1. I mean, it's not at all how I don't think it's going to be at all like that when the game actually comes out. There's going to be much larger samples, other healers running around. It's not just going to be a 1-on-1 or 2-on-1. It almost never is in Battlegrounds. Now, this conversation is mostly about Battlegrounds. It's crazy how, everyone just thinks that complaining at Blizzard is going to fix this. And that's the most frustrating part. This game is in the state it's in currently, with warlords, because Blizzard just keeps bending over to people who complain. With certain things, you know what, the people are right. You know, certain things, they're, you know, that's the point of having the testing and everything, right? But other things, like, I think this is one of the things where Blizzard is really onto something by really bringing back tanks and making them literal tanks. So, so everyone that complains right now about Warlords, the Warlords is a product of people's complaints. For the last 10 years that this game has been around. Okay, from day one, it was, what is going on? I need 40 people in a raid, to, you know, it about PvP only being about who has the best gear, and so on. And it's just, this game has evolved into something that a lot of people enjoy, but a lot of people at the same time don't enjoy certain aspects. And basically, I think that the company, really, Blizzard that is, really just needs to start doing what they know how to do best. Okay, if you guys have played Overwatch, that's all Blizzard. They did a phenomenal job on that game, in my opinion. And I think us, as a WoW community, we need to step back. We need to say, let's let these guys do their job. Let's let them design games, because they've been doing so for I don't even know how many years. Okay, I played Warcraft 1. I think I was in elementary school when that game was actually out. I mean, I don't even remember how long this company's been making games. They know how to do it. They know what they're doing. So now everyone's getting all like jumpy about, you know, what they see in the beta footage. And, you know, of course people are going to be blowing up the forums, and I hope Blizzard just says, no, this time it's not going to happen. You know, you guys are going to play what we release, and any fixes that have to be done will be done. Blizzard has always fixed things that were crazy, outbalanced. In Mista Pandaria, there was an update. It bugged holy damage for Ret Paladins, I think, if I remember. There were Ret Paladins outside of Orgrimmar and all over the place. I say Orgrimmar because I had Blood Elf Paladin, and I was there in my Ret spec. There was like 3 holy moves you were doing over, you know, a few million damage. I think it took a few days for Blizzard to fix that. That was an obvious bug, an obvious oversight, and stuff like that you can trust Blizzard to fix. Okay, but to be complaining about how tanks are right now, to be bashing the company for something that hasn't even been released yet, for an idea. Everyone can do insane amounts of damage in Legion. Every class can do insane amounts of damage. What makes tanks extraordinary is the fact that they can take the damage as well as dish it. This is a concept that is new to PvP for WoW. This is a concept new to everybody. I can't remember a time since 2005, when I started playing World of Warcraft, where tanks have ever been this strong. And you know what? I like it. I think everybody should give this a chance, because it's going to change the way everybody has to play. Now, we as the player have to adapt to the changes being made in the game. Legion, with all the changes, we're not talking about class and damage now, we're talking about all the changes to the game that they've made. It's a brand new game. We have to adapt to it. That's how I feel we should give it. And of course, if we go into when Legion does become live, and if it's just utterly ridiculous and tanks are just out of control, face-rolling cities, you can trust Blizzard will make an adjustment if it is that bad. But to get as hyped as everyone's getting right now, at the point it's at right now, I think is outrageous. And we need to stop and just let this company do what they're best at doing. Having said all that, guys, let's take a step back and look at the normal flow of when expansions and updates like that come out. So you have the initial build. Let's say the first, when WoD came out first. Okay, so you had everything the way it was. And now, what normally happens, and in every expansion it's been the same. You'll see classes, how they come out. You'll hear people complain, like, you know, like always. And then you'll see nerfs, 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 nerfs. That's what you see. And then the game gets deadened. And what I mean by deadened, I'm not saying, you know, by any means it's killed or it sucks. I'm saying that it just, on top of how simplified the game is being, or overcomplicated, depending on which view you want to take. I mean, the immense amount of skills in the game up until Warlords, that's been overcomplicated because it's been adding, and then the numbers have gone up, talents have gone a certain way, and then it's, okay, now we gotta nerf, because we have to try to find a balance. The games with the best balance, much like Dota 2, and, games that seem to just, who knows how they're balanced, but they seem to be, are the games that don't overcomplicate skills and talents, and don't overcomplicate the way the game is played. This is who you're playing. This is how you should. This is your role. This is how you should be playing. If you don't like that, then maybe try playing something else. Or it's those are the games with the balance. Right now with Legion, the way it looks like, and if you haven't seen a lot of Legion gameplay, you got to get in there. I mean, the videos that the beta players are posting, if you look between the lines, if you read in between the lines of what everyone's posting, it basically tells me there's a lot less skills and talents, which means there's going to be situational classes. You can't just go in there with every single class. If you're DPS right now in WoD, you got great gear, you can just run in there and blow up face. With Legion, with the limitation on the number of skills compared to WoD, you're gonna have to think, you're gonna have to strategize before you jump in there. Is this a fight where I can be effective, or am I gonna wait for that guy, that healer or whatnot, the tank that's coming up on my team behind me? Should I wait for him? How am I gonna use my talents when I open based on who I see is right now, let's say at the flag, at the blacksmith? I shouldn't just go in there by myself. It's gonna take some thinking. It's gonna take some strategizing. And I think that's something people aren't used to thinking about, and that's why this whole idea of tanks being so strong, and every class can open with not every class, but a lot of classes like rogues can open with 1 million damage, fire mages can hit for 1 million damage, that kind of thing. It's kind of scaring people. But I think it's something people can and will adapt to, simply because we're not used to it, but we will get used to it. And once people get their faces melted off for running in and playing the old style WoD PvP enough, they'll make the adjustment. Having said all that, guys, let's take a step back and look at the normal flow of when expansions and updates like that come out. So you have the initial build. Let's say the first, when WoD came out first. Okay, so you had everything the way it was, and now what normally happens, and in every expansion it's been the same. You'll see classes how they come out. You'll hear people complain, like always, and then you'll see nerfs. That's what you see. And then the game gets deadened. And what I mean by deadened, I'm not saying by any means it's killed or it sucks. I'm saying that it just, on top of how simplified the game is being, or overcomplicated, depending on which view you want to take. I mean, the immense amount of skills in the game up until Warlords, that's been overcomplicated because it's been adding,